Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo. Welcome back to Destiny. Today we're going to do a little bit of a discussion. I want to talk about the Taken King. I want to talk about Year 2 Destiny, right? Bungie obviously made a lot of big changes in Year 2 that were for the better. They were changes that were 100% necessary to secure the future of Destiny and to, also to make sure that the players were satisfied. They really had to prove to us that they were listening and that they saw the issues and the mistakes that they made in Year 1 and that they were willing to do what they had to do to make the changes to set things straight. Now, in doing that, they definitely, had a sort of ripple effect occur. And there were a lot of other components that were very well established in Year 1 that were affected negatively sometimes by the changes they made in Year 2. And that's really what I want to talk about today, because I feel this is definitely worth discussing. Definitely worth just taking a step back and looking at everything. Now, I love just about everything they did in Year 2. A lot of really great changes, regardless of the effects that they had and how negative they were and all the stuff we're going to talk about. Don't get me wrong, I love Year 2. Huge step forward for Destiny. A lot of very, very smart decisions made by Bungie. Probably one of the biggest ones that hasn't, really screwed up anything else too much is, separating light level and rank. That was just a really great idea. A lot of people may feel like it hasn't done much, but it has actually. It has definitely been a big change for the game. There was a really strong sense that leveling up in Year 1 was RNG based. No one wants that. No one wants that. That was a very bold risk to take in Year 1 with the launch of Destiny. Bungie understands that was not the way to go moving forward. They need a game that can grow. They need characters that can grow and move forward as the game grows. And it wasn't going to happen with that system. So kudos to them for making that change. But let's talk about probably one of the biggest changes that has affected the game in multiple areas. And that is the introduction to a more quest-based exotic weapon obtainment system. So very few weapons in Year 2 are just random drops. You have like Jalo Supercell, we have Hereafter, and we have Telesto. Outside of that, and outside of all of the Year 1 stuff that was brought to Year 2 that can also be obtained through random drops, everything else is quest-based. The First Curse, time-gated quest-based, Black Spindle, quest-based. The list just goes on. They're quest-based exotics. Your class items, whether it be Fabian strategy, the spades. They're quest-based exotics. There's no longer this heavy focus on exotics being obtained through random drops or random bounty drops. Even you know exactly how you have to get them. You complete this list of quests. You complete this set of tasks. Sometimes you have a waiting period, and then you get your hands on that exotic. Now, obviously, the biggest part of Destiny in Year 1 that was affected by this in Year 2 now is Xur. Poor Xur, right? He was probably one of the most valuable characters that showed up in the tower, come the weekend, was Xur. Everybody was really excited for Xur. Hey, maybe I'm finally gonna get my hands on that exotic weapon that I just couldn't get to drop in the Vault of Glass. I'm finally gonna grab myself a Thunderlord. That thing will not drop for me in Nightfalls. So Xur was a big deal. Even for people who are more hardcore into the game, were spending a lot of time running, the raids over and over again. The drop rate in Year 1 was just so damn low that if Xur showed up, there was a high chance he was going to have something that you really genuinely wanted, whether it be armor or weapon base. We have to look at this from both sides of the coin there. So he was a big deal in Year 1. Now come Year 2, where we have so few exotic items, whether they be armor or weapons, that are actually random drops. Xur has little focus. In fact, what he actually does is he shows up and he sells you 3 of coins. That's really the best thing that Xur does, because that 3 of coins allows you to obtain more exotic engrams more often, and then he helps increase your chance to getting those RNG-based things, like the Hereafter, like Telesto, like Jalo Supercell. That's how I obtained my Hereafter. That's how I obtained my Jalo Supercell, was by using my 3 of coins over and over, every time I play, every time I take down an Ultra, until I finally got those things. That's really what Xur does best. On top of that, he sells glass needles now, which allows you to re-roll your exotic armor. But outside of that, his actual exotic inventory of armor and weapons has definitely been diluted a little bit. Admittedly, he has a better chance to show up with something worthwhile when it comes to exotic armor pieces. We've seen that. There's been a lot of Year 2 Taken King originals that he has sold. Imperium Bellicose recently. We had the Hunter helmet recently. He's had some good stuff in the armor category. But eventually, you're going to have everything in your inventory. You're going to own it all. There's not going to be anything left because there isn't actually an extremely large number of exotic armor pieces and weapons that are available in that manner. Again, a lot of it, we don't know about it yet. It's time gated, you know, it's hidden behind some wall. Bungie only knows about it, you know, or we just already have our hands on it. So he's clearly just not as relevant. People aren't as excited for him every single Friday. Does he still have some value and some worth? No doubt. But I think Bungie recognizes their decision to go with a more quest-based, exotic, you know, obtainment system has definitely affected Xur, and I think that they, you know, we're going to see changes with Xur moving in the future. There's no doubt about that. So he was easily one of the first people who was, you know, was greatly affected by that. Now, on the other side of it, you have the players, right? You know, for us, for a long time, a lot of people may have complained, you know, about how difficult it was to actually obtain exotics. And I'm not saying that the exotics that we have now are, you know, incredibly easy to obtain. Admittedly, some of them are. Super Simulant, for example, was just a whole lot of randomness and waiting. But for the most part, most of the exotic weapons in the game now, there's a clear-cut route to them. You know, we know how to obtain them. We're all under the impression that there's hidden stuff. After finding Black Spindle, we all believe that there are hidden items. But outside of that, you know, I think there's, for me personally, like, all of it just seems so there. Like, in a way, exotics have been trivialized. And I know that's probably not the right thing to say because I do appreciate the quest system. I think it's just a matter of Bungie, you know, getting that whole concept right. Like, some of the exotic weapons I love the quest for. I actually really enjoy the first curse quest. I hate that I have to wait 2 weeks, but I like that I'm asked to go and actually land precision kills, that I'm required to do some skill-based activity to obtain that exotic weapon. Whereas Sleeper Simulant was, you know, completely the opposite to me. It was just like, hey, go farm these war sats. They're going to be an absolute nightmare. And then just turn this thing in and wait, and then complete this, you know, fairly easy strike. I didn't have any problem with the Saber Strike. You know, very few elements in that quest line that required you to truly put your skills to the test. I think Black Spindle did a better job than almost all of the exotic quests right now by giving you a fairly challenging fight. I know for a lot of people that was actually an extremely challenging fight. Some of the things I've read, there were people who just could not beat that, and I'm sorry. That sucks, because Black Spindle's awesome. You know, so I think there's a lot of checks and balances to do with that. I think they're very much testing the water with each piece of design that they have here. But I do feel that they also understand that they need these time-gated quests. They need to extend the life and the time between when a player can actually obtain certain exotics because they feel the need to keep the game alive moving into the new year. Now, for the rest of the year, we don't know what's going on with Destiny. We're like left in the dark right now. You know, we've heard small bits and pieces. The developers, obviously, Christmas is coming up. They're going to go on their holiday vacation. They're obviously going to take, you know, vacation. You know, what's going to happen in 2016 then? You know, what's going on with these free pieces of content? There's so much to be left. There's so much left unanswered right now. There's no doubt that time gating a lot of these exotic weapons was a big decision for Bungie when they were saying, how do we keep people interested over the next 5 to 6 months, you know, however long it's going to take before we learn about the next substantial piece of content. So that was a decision, you know, that affected in-game elements, it affected the players, it affected Nightfalls. I think that's really the last thing that I want to talk about is how the decision, you know, to have these quest-based exotics has greatly impacted Nightfalls. A lot of us right now complaining about Nightfall rewards, right? Like, dude, Nightfall rewards suck. Come on, you know, I want to get exotics from Nightfall rewards. But the thing is, there are actually so few exotics that you can actually obtain through Nightfall rewards. You know, let's block out all the year 1 stuff that has become year 2. I know for some of you that stuff's important, but to me, I don't care about any of that. Like, I don't care about, you know, Suros Regime in year 2. I don't care about Thunderlord in year 2. I want new stuff. I want to move forward with new pieces of content. Frankly, I was 100% against the inclusion of any year 1 exotics being brought into year 2. That's just, to me, no. Like, that RPGs have proven over the years, you leave old gear behind and you obtain new items. Maybe at some point when this game is so expansive and large, players will want to revisit those items and they can like transmogrify those items onto new pieces of armor, you know, just for the visual aesthetic. But I want new items. I want to obtain new pieces of gear and new weapons. I don't care about the old stuff. So for me personally, there's very few items that I can actually obtain in a Nightfall. So even if they did make the drop rate like 95% for exotics, it wouldn't take that long for each of us in our, in your own respective, let's say, one character, to obtain all of the exotic weapons and pieces of armor that were available for that character. So I think they have to walk a very fine line between just how, high the chance of exotic rewards are in Nightfalls, and balance with that with just how many exotics they actually have in the game, at least when it comes to the new stuff. So a very difficult decision there, and again, a lot of those time-gated exotic quests, those are all exotics that could have been obtained in the Nightfall through random drop. They're now, they're invalid. You can't drop them in a Nightfall. They're quest-based. You can't give someone the first curse in a Nightfall. So that is clearly a decision that has also affected the way that Nightfalls were handled and the rewards that Nightfalls granted to players. So I think you guys get what I'm trying to say here, right? We have a lot of ripple effects, just a lot of components that were influenced because of that one big change that Bungie made with exotics. That focus to have more of the exotics be obtained directly through quests. Now I think, at the end of the day, wrapping that all up, despite all the things that were affected, Xur and Nightfall rewards, and and overall player consumption of how many exotics are actually in the game now and how easily it is to obtain them, I think that was a smart decision. Does it need refinement? Yeah, I think it does. As I said, I think Bungie's still working with the idea of these quests. How difficult do they make them? How long do they make them, take the player to actually obtain them? There's a lot of things they have to consider, and everyone who plays the game has a different outlook on these things. Some people, hate the idea of quests and would rather have it be random, and vice versa. They can't please everyone. So they have to try and work out what's best for the game. Not just now, but moving into the future, as this is a game that plans to have a very long life. And I think that has to be a very, very hard thing to do as a developer. In many ways, people don't recognize it, but Bungie is in, new territory. They're taking the first-person shooter genre in a direction where it has never been taken by anyone else, truly. Has there been, MMOs all... Yeah, but they can't really follow that same formula. They're creating a game that is so highly detailed. They can't be expected to create that insane amount of, content and expanse that something like World of Warcraft could do. This is a much more high detail experience. There's just so many different things that they have to take into consideration. And they are very much going in a new place, in my opinion. People don't give them the credit for doing that, but they are. What they're doing with Destiny, a 10-year plan for a persistent world, a world that, is living and breathing, that continues to grow and change throughout the course of time, like Destiny, hasn't been done in this way before. They are very much on uncharted waters. They have places they can look, I imagine, for influence and for assistance, but really, they're on their own in a lot of different ways. So for me, despite the way that the changes they have made in year 2 have affected a lot of the stuff that was relevant in year 1, I'm okay with that. It was a change that needed to be made. Some things have suffered, and I think it's just a matter of getting back on track in 2016. And I think that's going to really test the mettle of Bungie as a developer and what they can do with Destiny moving into the new year and moving onward with Destiny, possibly into Destiny 2, whatever the future holds, whatever we as players are unaware of. I'm on board for the ride. I'm very excited, and I wish Bungie the best of luck in 2016, and I hope that they blow the pants off of us. They blow the pants off this ride, and they really deliver something truly special. So what I have to ask you guys, are there any things that you have noticed that have changed in year 2 that have greatly affected a lot of the other established components in year 1? There's probably like a million other places we could go with this discussion. We can talk about how certain things affected the usage of the Reef and the Prison of Elders. So if you guys have any thoughts, anything that you might like to see me discuss in the future on the channel, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys in the next one.